Hello, you're watching Bones and Stones, and today I have some more microscope footage recorded by my brother. He's sent over a variety of clips so that I can identify the species for him, and as you can see, this sample of pond water is absolutely teeming, so we should have some goodies lined up for you today. So, first we have some filamentous green algae, just focusing through the different layers, so you can have a look. And this is a completely different kind of algae. It's a kind of golden algae. This one is Synora, and each cell in that bundle has its own flagellum responsible for that tumbling motion throughout the water. That yellow colour is actually due to a pigment called xanthophyll. Now each cell does actually have two chloroplasts full of chlorophyll, the green pigment, but most pigment in that cell is xanthophyll, which is why it's so yellow. And I really do love watching these tumble through the water because you can really see the 3D nature of them under the microscope. In real life though, you'll know a pond's got these in because they absolutely stink. Now here we have a cladoceran, commonly known as a water flea. That green in the middle is its guts full of algae, and the head end is actually the top where you can see two black eye spots. And in the adult, those should be fused into one eye spot, so we know that this is not an adult. Now if we look at the bottom end, you'll see that it looks a bit like a mouth, doesn't it? But actually that is the anus, and it keeps the anus inside for protection. But when it needs to, that little tongue-like protrusion, although it looks like a tongue, as I said, that's actually its anus. In fact, it looks so extraordinary you probably won't believe me unless it does a poo. It looks like it is trying to do one. It's really struggling here, it's straining. Look at it. Are we going to see? Oh, there we are. You've just seen a water flea do a shite. And you can see those beating motions at the front of its head there. Those are the thoracopods. And it looks like we've got something else in this footage. Can't quite see what it is yet. And it scared away our water flea. Whatever it is. I wonder if we'll get... Oh, now we're getting a closer look. I think my brother's just trying to focus to get a better view of it. Will we see? There we go. So it looks a bit like a shrimp. And it is in fact another kind of microscopic crustacean, but it's an amphipod. And what it's on there is actually the molt, the shell of maybe even the same water flea we've just seen escape. But it is indeed the molt of a water flea. And I can't quite see what the amphipod's doing, which is a lesson in itself, and not to use light fields microscopy when you've got a transparent animal like this. So I can't see what's in its gut. It might be feeding on some of the algae there. As I say, I'm not sure. There's something in front of it, which... Are we going to get a good view of it? Nope, because we're on to some new footage. And that squiggling thing there is a nematode, which is a kind of worm, although it's got its own phylum, the Nematoda. Nematos, the Greek for thread, and oidos, meaning like, for obvious reasons. And that characteristic S-shaped motion is very typical of what you'll see in a nematode. Don't ask me to identify what kind of nematode this is, because they're pretty much impossible to identify unless you're an expert, because they all look the same. Nematodes are so populous across the entire world that it's said that if you removed every single animal in the world apart from nematodes, you'd basically be left with ghost-like forms created by a film of nematodes across these animals, and you'd probably be able to identify the animals from the species of nematodes. See, this water's absolutely teeming. Unfortunately, most of what we see here is way too small for us to identify unless we had some greatly magnified footage of it, but it will inevitably be euglenoid, ciliates, that kind of thing. Oh, that was some kind of ciliate, don't know what it was. What have we got here? So we've got a squirming thing in the bottom of the screen. It looks like a spirostomum there. Yes, that is a spirostomum, which looks like a worm, but it isn't. It's a ciliate, and it seems to be tangled up with another nematode there. But if you look at our spirostomum there at the bottom, you can see it's not a worm. It's got a very flattened end, which is typically where the contractile vacuole is. A contractile vacuole is an organelle held by a great many microorganisms because it's needed to expel unwanted water, which diffuses in normally. A basic fact of chemistry. If too much water were to diffuse into a cell, it would just burst. So they've got to get rid of that. And the spirostomum seems to be turning around now. I'm really hoping we're going to get a better view of this because they're really interesting. They are most known for their ability to contract themselves into little blobs. In fact, they can contract themselves quicker than any other organism known to science. we're moving along again. No, we're staying where we are. So we can see our squirming nematode there, and it looks like we've got two Spirostomum now. And don't be under any illusion that they're going to mate, they're probably just going to slide past each other. But you're really getting a better view of what they look like now. Look at that flattened end where there, it's very clear because that is the contractile vacuole there you saw on the left. It's going off screen now. And the Spirostomum on the right, it's hiding itself behind some algae. And we've got our little nematode there squiggling in the middle. As a doctor, nematodes are really very interesting to me because they're responsible for so many human parasitic infections. For example, you've got Onchocerca volvulus, responsible for river blindness, which is the second most common cause of reversible blindness in the world. You've got Ascaris, responsible for ascariasis, which is an intestinal roundworm infection. And you've got my personal favourite, Enterobius vermicularis, or the threadworm, that causes an intense anal itchiness. In fact, the way you diagnose it is by sticking a piece of sellotape on your anus first thing in the morning when it's at its itchiest, and if you stick it under the microscope, you will then see on that sellotape some eggs and worms, and it's therefore very easy to diagnose, and it's pretty gross, unless you like that kind of thing, in which case it's very cool. And we're getting a very good view of a Spirostomum now. Look at that. You can see its contractile vacuole on the left. It might contract a bit. What's it doing? It's turning around. Seems to be looking for something to eat. This water really is teeming. Look how many things are moving about here. And the Spirostomum seems to want to go back into that little forest of algae. It's not feeding though, but you can see that it does contain some green pigment, so it has been feeding on algae. There are about 7 species of Spirostomum, so I probably could identify this one if I wanted, but it would be very difficult just from this footage. We're moving around here again. Anything? Just a nematode there that's enjoying itself. In fact, I think there's 2 there. What are we seeing? We've got that Spirostomum there. And the nematode seems to be coming out of the forest. Now the blunt end of a nematode is its head. The other end is often sharper, but that's not to say that it can't spear things with its head, which will often contain teeth or cilia on the end of it. And if you look at what it's doing to those other microorganisms, it might even be feeding on some of them. It's very difficult to tell without magnified footage, but it's gone after the algae there and it's hooked it. You can really see there how effective that hook is. It's not done very well at eating it though, I have to say. And we've got some different footage. Now, I don't know what this is. It's spiralling along beautifully. From the fact that it's green, you could probably say it's some kind of euglenoid, and it might even have a flagellum that we can't see. Oh, I don't know what that was. But I don't know what it is. It's swimming in and out of focus there as it's going deeper into the film of water on the slide and then coming back up towards us. So it's very difficult to focus on. Yeah, I'm not sure what this is. And that's probably the last lesson in this film, which is that these things are often very difficult to identify because the diversity at this level is amazing. And that's our last clip, it seems. So thank you for watching, and if you liked it, subscribe and feel free to leave any comments. There will be more footage on the way.